Many retail stores across this country long ago installed self-checkout technology, and there is now a growing trend accompanying self-checkout, and that is receipt inspections. More and more Canadians are speaking out after experiencing random checks as they leave retailers. Experts say self-checkout has made theft easier at a time when inflation is driving up prices. Shoppers, meanwhile, feel like they are being unjustly targeted, and it has sparked a backlash from some customers who believe their shopping experience is being ruined by self-checkout. Well, companies who use this practice seem to have no plans of stopping, so it's important for shoppers to know their rights. Joining us now with her advice is Kyla Lee. She is a criminal lawyer at Acumen Law and joins us today from Vancouver. Kyla, what rights do shoppers have when they are confronted with receipt check?
Shoppers are not required to stop to engage in receipt checks, except in circumstances where they're at a store that requires a membership and that it's part of the terms of the membership agreement. So like a Costco, for example. But otherwise, stores don't have the right to detain customers, to prevent them from leaving, and to demand that they show their receipt before they leave the store and check that the items in their basket or their bag match the items on the receipt.
So say somebody refuses to give consent, for example, to check their bags, what's in their cart, what's in their purse, for example, and staff try to stop them from leaving. What are their options there?
You have a couple options. Option one is you can just keep walking out the door. Option two is you can say, I don't consent to being searched. Option three is if you are physically prevented from leaving, you can use reasonable force to defend yourself against an assault. Although I would not recommend doing that, because if you don't judge the actions correctly, you could end up charged yourself. Mm-hmm. And option four is you can contact the police if somebody's physically restraining you or preventing you from keeping you from leaving. You can also file a civil suit if a store employee assaults you or prevents you from leaving using physical force. You could file a civil suit for assault or for forcible confinement.
Kyla, it's interesting. A lot of this talk has been about how this receipt check policy might in fact affect vulnerable minority groups. What do you say about that?
People who are racialized are, social science research shows, more likely to be suspected of having committed an offense. They're more likely, especially from reports from individuals who are racialized, to be followed around a store, to be sort of accused of stealing when they aren't stealing. And so by extension, they're more likely to be stopped on their way out a store and asked to provide proof of purchase. And so we can see that these policies that stores are implementing are starting to have a disproportionate effect on racialized individuals, people who are visible minorities, compared to the rest of the population.
So we know, though, from a retailer's standpoint here, self-checkout machines are causing a lot of theft. What can legally stores, retailers do to prevent shoplifting?
It's up to the store to ensure that they have proper insurance to cover shrinkage every year. It's also up to the store to make sure that they have the correct levels of staff to make sure that there's not theft taking place. Whether that's having security cameras in place at the self-checkouts, there's technology that allows bags to be weighed and associates with the weights of the items that have been scanned to ensure that those things correspond. They could have security guards monitoring the store, both plainclothes and in uniform. Those would be methods that the stores can use to prevent theft. But detaining people without any basis to believe that they've stolen anything is not something that's within their lawful rights to do.
Do you think perhaps now is the time for lawmakers to get involved, to address these receipt check practices with some kind of legislation that could help protect consumers?
Legislation is absolutely appropriate at this point in time, not only because we see these policies becoming more and more widespread and because we know that they have a disproportionate impact on racialized individuals, but also because the law is not very clear-cut for both retailers and for customers. A lot of the law that's developed around this has developed in the common law as opposed to as a result of legislation. So having legislation would give certainty to people about what their rights are, what a store's rights are, what their obligations are, and then people would be able to inform themselves accordingly.